Okay, so let's now rewrite the following expression as one trig and a metric expression. We're taking secant of x over sine of x, subtracting it from secant of x over cosecant of x. What I want to do with this, again, is to get rid of these superfractions. So I am going to go ahead and just separate them. So I will have a 1 over sine of x times secant of x minus, pulling out the secant of x in the front, and I'm going to times that by 1 over cosecant of x. Now if you look at this, if you're feeling like you got nothing, which I'm feeling like I don't have anything, I'm going to go to my next step and just rewrite these in terms of sines and cosines. So what this would be is 1 over sine of x times secant of x is just 1 over cosine of x. And then I have minus 1 over secant of x, again, is 1 over cosine of x, times 1 over cosecant of x is 1 over sine of x. So I would have 1 over sine of x. Remember, that's the keep, change, flip. So we would flip sine of x right to the top. So it would just be sine of x. Right? Now, with this, let's just combine both of these now that we have them written out or separated out. Let's combine them into two fractions. So now I would have 1 over sine of x cosine of x minus 1 over cosine, or I'm sorry, sine, not 1 over, I'm sorry, sine of x would be in the numerator, right? Because we'd have 1 times sine of x. And then we'd have cosine of x in the denominator. Okay, now let's go ahead and subtract these and make this into a big fraction. Okay, and this way we won't have a superfraction. Here we go. Our denominator, if you look at it, is sine of x cosine of x. That's the least common denominator. So we would have a sine of x cosine of x. Now let's look at our numerators. Looking at the first fraction over here, this one has the least common denominator, sine of x cosine of x. So we know that the numerator would stay the same over here. It'd be 1 minus, but on this side, we are missing the sine of x. So I need to multiply this fraction, top and bottom, by sine of x. And we took care of the denominator part. That's what we got here. So we're only worried about the numerator. So this would change to sine squared x. Okay, so now let's think about what we have here. Recall our Pythagorean identity for the numerator, 1 minus sine squared x. Well, what does that equal to? You're right, it equals to cosine squared x. And let's look at the denominator. The denominator is the sine of x times the cosine of x. Well, what can we do with that? If I look at this, one of these cosines will cancel out. So the cosine of the denominator goes away completely. In the numerator, one of those cosines cancels out. So I end up with cosine of x over sine of x. And I know that this is just equal to the cotangent of x. Wow, this is looking very, very similar to another problem. All right, guys, let's move on and go to our next problem.